much for the invitation. It's my first time here in Zagreb, so thank you to CA or organizers and also my colleagues and friends to be here. My task in the research group was the Dublin system, and I would like to present here some results, especially some questions which I try to solve. And the first is the Dublin system functional, or has it some deficiencies, and if the reform is necessary. And first of all, I would like to start with some numbers. Some of them you see in the presentations of my colleagues. But the most important statistical data from the era of migration in Europe and EU is that at the mid-2023 there were over 36 million refugees and about 60 million internally displaced persons, in which persons who had to leave their homes because, for example, some conflicts and violence and so on. When we look at the data connected with migration to and from the European Union, it's very interesting because over 2 million persons immigrated to the European Union in the last year, but only over 1 million persons emigrated from the European Union, so it's twice less people. What is also very interesting experience from my research that, for example, journalists and media speaks especially about illegal entries of refugees to member countries of European Union. But as you can see, the reality is a bit different, because you can see here at this slide that irregular or illegal entries account only a small number, small fraction of migration in the EU. The only exception was the year 2015, as you can see, because there were some migration waves, but the other years you can see that the most of entries are legal entries, so the people have permission to stay in the States. Here you can see also first-time asylum applicants by continent of origin. The data is from the year 2022, and you can see that most people come from Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Middle East especially, and only about 12 persons present are people from Europe. Now some basic characteristics of Dublin system. As we heard here from many of my colleagues, asylum and migration policy is a very, very sensitive issue for the whole world, for the European countries. Why? Because it's an era where there are on the one hand rights and freedoms of people, of refugees, but on the other hand there are interests of states, economic, security, aspects and so on, and sometimes these are in collision. So that's why it's a very sensitive issue, and as you heard here, sometimes it's very, very difficult to find a good solution for both of these sides. Very important is the so-called common European asylum system, because it's policy and also legislation of European Union which tries to regulate and coordinate member states' practices in this area. And the Dublin system is an important part of this common European asylum system. Why? Because this system lays down rules for determining which member states will be responsible for deciding on matters of the applications for asylum, for international protection. And the whole system is based on so-called one chance only principle, and it means that only one member state is responsible for examining and also deciding on the application. Also, we have to say that the Dublin system fulfills very important two functions, because the Dublin system tries to eliminate two phenomena. One phenomenon is called forum shopping or asylum shopping, and the second phenomenon is refugee in orbit, and both are very negative phenomena. The first means that sometimes refugees try to put applications in several member states successively or at the same time, and they try to seek to take advantages of differences in the legal system of the various member states, and they try to consider which the system will be the best for them. And the refugee in orbit, it's opposite situations, and it means that no state is considered to have competencies to solve the problem, the application of the refugee. And it means that then the refugee is in uncertainty about his status, about his state in a member state. Here you can see some other numbers and statistical data. In 2022, the asylum seekers or who came to European Union came from around 140 countries, so many countries, and about nearly 1 million applications, including nearly 900,000 first-time applications were lodged in the EU in 2022, and it means an increase of 52% if we compare it with the year 2021. Maybe some other interesting informations. Top 50 nationalities of first-time asylum applications in the European Union. So on the first places were, for example, Syrian, Afghanistan, Venezuelan, or Turkish, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and some others. And the most first-time applications were lodged in these 5 states. As you can see, it's Germany, France, Italy, Austria, and Spain. And very interesting are also the data how successful are the applicants for international protection in European Union. For example, in 2022, EU countries took over 600,000 first instance asylum decisions, and about 50%, it was 49% of these decisions were positive. And then also some number of decisions were positive in the second instance procedure, because the refugees bring an appeal before the second instance authorities in the countries. So overall, EU countries granted protection to around 380,000 people, for example, in year 2022. And very similar was the situation also in the last year, in 2023. And now to the Dublin system and the necessity of its reform. The Dublin system is not achievement of the recent year. as also my colleague Nora told about the convention, also the Dublin system has its own and quite a long history, because first establishment of the ideas of Dublin system was in Europe in the early 19th of the 20th century, but the legal form of Dublin system as well its content has changed over the time, because there were reactions to, for example, political events, economic events, and some other problems and migrant waves in Europe and in the whole world. And currently the legal basis, it's so-called Dublin 3. So we have Dublin Convention and Dublin 1, 2, and now we have Dublin 3. But as I study this issue, nearly after the acceptance and after the date it will be practices, the Dublin 3, specialists and non-governmental organization and so on speaks that there are deficiencies of the system from its beginning, and the most important shortages of the Dublin system is first of all that this system placed a very hard burden on coastal states, because these states are states of the first entry of the refugees, for example Greece, Italy, and other coastal states. Also other short deficiency of this system is insufficient capacity of reception facilities. Also the decision-making process were prolonged. Migrant states in very poor conditions, as you can see in various pictures in the presentations of my colleague, and that's why also they try to illegally within the EU and various member states. Another problem is also that many member states inform applicants about their rights during the whole process of granting asylum only in a very general terms, and also sometimes the informations are also outdated. Or very different are practices of various member states in connection with detention and detention practices. And so on. So during the years we practice this Dublin system. There were many and many disadvantages and deficiencies of the Dublin system pointed out. So what to do? The first significant attempt of reform of the Dublin system, of the Dublin Regulation number 3, was so-called Dublin 4. It's a reform step or only attempt of reform step from the year 2016. And if we compare the Dublin 4 and the Dublin 3, so the main changes are to establish a new mechanism for collective redistributions of asylum seekers. Secondly, greater safeguards for minors, for children, and also the necessity to broaden the definition of family, members of family ties. Also, thirdly, to establish better preliminary examination procedure, and fourth, the obligation for the asylum seekers to remain, to stay in the member state that is responsible for the application, and finally also to shorten time limits for decisions and for procedures connected with asylum procedure. But the Dublin 4 hasn't been unfortunately adopted, and the main problem was the point 1, because the member states were not able to agree on the mechanism of the solidarity. Another step or attempt how to reform not only the Dublin system but the whole migration and asylum policy of the EU was announced in 2020, and we spoke about it also. My colleague, for example, Professor Lang and other colleagues, and it's a so-called new pact on migration and asylum. The aim of the whole pact is, first of all, to create a functioning legal framework for migration and asylum policy, also to increase the efficiency of the system, and also to remove or at least minimize the factors that encourage secondary movements and so on. The publication of the pact has been postponed several times, and the final form, what to say about it? The final form is a rather restrictive compromise and attempt to accommodate as far as possible to all EU member states. From a legal point of view, the pact is the nature of a summary communication. It means that it's only non-binding explanatory document. But this document is followed by a package of 9 instruments, and 5 of these instruments have the nature of a regulation of EU, 3 have the nature of a communication, and the last one has the nature of a guidance. How the process going with this new pact? From the moment, from the announcement in 2020, there were and there are still very difficult discussions within the EU, within the or between the member states, but some successful steps we can mention here now. For example, the first successful step was the creation of the EU Asylum Agency in 2022, and this agency replaced the former European Asylum Support Office. And very important steps were made in the year 2023. Maybe the final and most recently it was in December 2023 when a key agreement between Council and the European Parliament was announced. The agreement covers 5 key proposals of the pact, as you can see here. So on these 5 documents, there is an agreement between Council and European Parliament, and these are proposals of screening regulation, Eurodac regulation, asylum procedure regulation. On the first place, you can see asylum migration management regulation. This is very important from the point of view of Dublin system, because this is a document which should replace Dublin system 3. I will speak about it later. And finally, the 5th document is a crisis and force majeure regulation. For example, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said to this agreement, Europe is a strong community and capable of finding great answers to great challenges. I welcome the timely political agreement reached by Parliament and Council on the key element of new pact on migration and asylum, and so on. Here you can see the whole process of on the way how was the development and various steps with the migration, with the new pact on migration and asylum. So you can see here the chronology of the whole process, but there is no still end of it. So, and finally, I would like to pay attention only of one of these documents, and as I said, it will be the Asylum and Migration Management Regulation, the so-called AMMR, because this document should replace the Dublin 3 regulation in the future, hopefully. What are the main issues or institutes of proposal of these regulations? Maybe the most important is a new solidarity mechanism that is being proposed. This new mechanism of solidarity combine mandatory solidarity with flexibility for member states as regards the choice of individual contributions. These contributions include relocations, financial contributions, all some kinds of alternative solidarity measures, for example, deployment of personnel or measure focusing of capacity building and so on. But what is very important is that the member states have full discretion as to the type of solidarity they contribute. So it depends on each of the state what kind of solidarity mechanism will be applied. So no member state will be obliged to carry out relocations. Another very important is that there will be a minimum annual number of relocations for member states, and this number is set at 30,000, while the minimum annual number for financial contribution will be fixed at 20,000 euros per relocation. And yeah, thank you. So I skip it and I go to the conclusions. What to say to the whole reform of migration policy and especially to the Dublin system? I try to ask myself, will the new pact, including the AMMR, really be a positive reform steps? It's certainly a very good steps that a new migration pact is being created at all. Because the fact that the existing mechanism is dysfunctional is evidenced by poor situations in refugee camps, by the activity of illegal smugglers, and so on and so on. However, I have to say that the pact does not bring the promised new beginning or the emphasis on solidarity, humanity, and migrants' rights, but maybe more continues to focus pragmatically on border control, repression, and returns of migrants to their homeland countries. For example, according to non-governmental organizations in the Czech Republic working in this area of migration, the pact is based on the incorrect assumptions that most asylum claims in the EU are unfounded, that the asylum procedures can usually be carried out very quickly, and so on and so on. And as I here citate the words of Ursula, so I would like to end my contribution with the words of Eve Geddy. She is director of Amnesty International of European Institution Office, and this lady says, instead of prioritizing solidarity through relocation and strengthening protection systems, states may simply pay to reform external borders or fund non-EU countries to prevent people from reaching Europe. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention.